this September meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Ms. Worley, can you confirm we have a quorum?
All present, you do have a quorum.
Indeed. All right, I'll ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, please guide this commission to make the right decisions during our meeting tonight. Please watch over our families, friends, and our men and women in uniform that help make our freedom possible. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, Ms. Worley, I think the minutes of our last meeting have been distributed. Does anyone on the commission have any revisions, corrections, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
And a second? Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are adopted. Ms. Worley, are there any changes to the agenda that has been posted?
No, sir.
All right. Are there any changes to the order of public hearings? That's part of that. So,
No, sir.
no. Very good. I'm going to open a public comment period for any items that are not on tonight's agenda. Anyone that has anything they would like to bring to the attention of the commission, please come forward. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. All right, the schedule matters. Would you call the agenda, Ms. Worley?
Mr. Chairman, the first public hearing item this evening is in District 2, CU 2018-8. It's an application filed by Bruce Beasley requesting a conditional use permit for a detached second dwelling at 3007 Stone Castle Lane on tax map number 202251. The property is zoned RR, is 3 acres. The conditional use permit is required by Article 21, Section 4.1, and the comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement.
Good evening, Greg Garrison with Gooch and Planning. This is a request for a conditional use permit to add a second dwelling unit detached at 3007 Stone Castle Lane. The site is located in the Mill Forest subdivision in the north central part of the county. Comprehensive plan recommends rural enhancement for this area. Current zoning is rural residential. The site and the surrounding areas are primarily low-density residential uses. The 800 square foot detached dwelling unit will be at the terminus of the existing driveway behind the existing residence. Due to health reasons, the applicant is requesting to construct a smaller dwelling unit for himself and his spouse, which will allow their son and his family to move into the existing primary residence. The detached dwelling will include a complete kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. And these are just an elevation of what it will look like. There was a community meeting held on July 26, 2018 at the applicant's residence. Staff, Planning Commissioner Mr. Myers, Board Member Mr. Alvarez, and one neighbor attended that meeting. There was no opposition to this request. Should the Commission recommend approval, these are the following conditions that are recommended. Number 1, 2 dwelling units may be on the property subject to these conditions. Number 2, only persons related to a resident of the principal dwelling shall reside in the second dwelling unit. Number 3, the second dwelling unit shall not be rented separately from the principal dwelling. Number 4, there shall be a working smoke detector and a working carbon monoxide monitor installed. Number 5, emergency access vehicle or emergency vehicle access shall be provided and maintained to the second dwelling unit. And number 6, prior to the transfer of all or a portion of the property, the owner shall notify in writing to the Department of Community Development of this transfer, and the new owner of this conditional use permit and its conditions with a copy of to the planning staff. And these are typical conditions that we place on these types of uses. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Ms. Garrison? Hearing none, thank you, Greg. Would the applicant like to come forward and add something to Mr. Garrison's presentation? Is the applicant present? Hi. Would you like to add anything to that? All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from the commission? Let me open this to any public comment. Anyone who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, please come forward. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. Well, there's nothing else to say here, gentlemen. We have the case before us. What's your pleasure?
I move that we recommend it for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the application as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Greg.
Mr. Chairman, your second public hearing item is in District 2. It's a CU 2018-9, an application filed by Richard and Aaron Woolard requesting a conditional use permit for a two-family dwelling at 2818 Timber Trail Drive on tax map number 202265. The property is zoned RR, is 3.04 acres. The CUP is required by Article 6, Section 3.9, and the comprehensive plan designates this area as rural enhancement.
Good evening again. This is another second dwelling unit request for, this time it's attached at 2818 Timber Trail Drive. This is also in the same subdivision, Mill Forest subdivision. Comprehensive plan recommends rural enhancement for this area. The site is also zoned rural residential and is primarily low density residential uses all around. This is the Beasley property just behind that I just presented. The applicant is requesting to construct an approximately 1,200 square foot attached dwelling unit at the terminus of the existing driveway. This will be for an elderly family member and will include a complete kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. The applicant does plan to live in the primary residence. They'll be connected by a foyer. This is just a concept plan. The existing house, if you're looking at the screen, will be is on your left. The addition will be on your right. A community meeting was held on July 20th, 2018 at the applicant's residence. Staff, board member Mr. Alvarez, and 4 neighbors attended that meeting, and there was no opposition. The same conditions are recommended for this conditional use permit as the previous presentation that I made. I can go through them if you like.
I think we're okay, Greg.
And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you
Any
have.
questions, Ms. Garrison?
I just have one general question. You know how many houses are in that subdevelopment?
That I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I'm just curious if every house there wanted to add a second dwelling unit on their property, what the effect that is.
And it's something I could look into. It's nothing that I thought much
I
of.
mean, you're doubling the capacity of the roads and the service area. I was just curious. Okay.
I can get back to you if you want on that.
I think it'd be good to know. Yeah, that'd be, this seems to be a popular issue that we hear a number of cases. And if it's in a larger subdivision, that could be an impact.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be good to have that information.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Is the applicant present tonight? Would you like to add anything to that?
Only notation of the misspelling of the last name. W on the back end, W-O-O-L-A-R-D.
Oh, Woolard, okay, Woolard. Yeah, we have it correct here in the notes, so thank you. Any questions for the applicant? I assume not. I'm going to open this to public comment. Anyone who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Gentlemen,
I move we recommend it for approval.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The application is recommended for approval. Ms. Worley, I have one question, if I might, Greg, for you. Both of these conditional use permits that we've recommended to be approved do not have any term limit.
No, sir.
So this is a new procedure. I think that we started some last year where we don't have to have if it's a type of use that does not require looking back at it, then we just give it an unlimited term. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Did I state that correctly?
Yes, police complaint.
Right.
Joanne Hunter, Director of Community Development. Based on a policy that was adopted by the board about a year ago, any uses that we deemed to be low-impact uses that did not have potential to create noise or just heavy traffic or things like that, the board had deemed that it would be appropriate to not have a expiration. If the Planning Commission or the board always feels that it's appropriate to have an expiration on a particular, they're welcome to add that condition. Conditions are things that are placed by the county, but on these types of uses, we don't recommend them as part of the standard conditions.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Joanne. Ms. Worley?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be calling the next two public hearing items together. We will have one presentation, one public hearing, and hold two separate votes. Both are in District 4. The first is RZ 2013-1B, application by Markel Eagle, requesting amendments to proffers of rezoning case RZ 2013-1A to amend the conceptual plan and to delete a requirement for an Ashland Road connection. And the second is an application by Markel Eagle requesting a zoning reclassification of 28.70 acres from A2 and RPUD to all RPUD to build Section 4 65 age-restricted single-family detached dwellings. Both of the applications are located at on Parkside Village, and the comprehensive plan designates this area as suburban residential.
Thank you, Ms. Worley. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Joanne Hunter, Director of Community Development. As Ms. Worley indicated, these are two separate zoning cases. One is a proffer amendment, one is a rezoning case, but they are tightly intertwined and interconnected, so we would recommend that we have a combined public hearing, but there would be necessary to have two separate votes after the public hearing is closed. So first I want to cover the proffer amendment. This is a proffer amendment for a case submitted by Markel Eagle. The rezoning case was 2013-001B, and there's two proffers that are being requested to be changed. One would be to amend the conceptual plan and relate it to the Park Village Boulevard, and actually the road would be relocated and be part of the Parkside Village Section 4 rezoning case, so it would be really relocating the road to another part of the subdivision. Property is located right in the corner of the northeastern section of the county, right where the Goochland, Henrico, and Hanover boundaries all meet. This is the comprehensive plan. You can see the yellow areas, that's designated the residential. You can see the red commercial area along the Ashland Road portion of the property. That was also zoned in 2013. They were two separate cases that were processed together. And then there's also commercial development along Pouncey Track Road. You have the Oshucks development located here, and then vacant land for commercial development on the other side. The zoning map pretty much follows the same as the comprehensive plan. This is the aerial map. You can see when the development was under constructed. Here is Park Village Boulevard. Was proposed to go from Ashland Road here over to Pouncey Track. The red portions are the portions that they would be requesting that amendment to remove that road of Park Village Boulevard. 2013 conditions stated that if you go down to 10C, the connector road connecting Pouncey Track Road shall be constructed in the location as generally shown on the conceptual plan. Right-of-way for the future road extension to Ashland Road shall be reserved for future dedication as a public right-of-way and shall be dedicated upon the request of Goochland County. So when this case came through in 2013, there was always an intention to have a road that ran here along this property. This is Park Village Boulevard, to connect these two roadways. This would be where the road connection would occur. You can see this is the area under construction. The road would come out on Ashland Road here, and it is about a half mile to the intersection at Pouncey Track and Ashland Road. This case was heard last month at the August 2nd Planning Commission meeting. At that time, there was about 14 speakers that spoke at the public hearing, and the Planning Commission did defer the case and asked the applicant and staff to work together to see if there some sort of consensus could be reached. The applicant did come forward shortly after the meeting and did submit a revised plan that provided full connectivity to Ashland Road. The proposal as they've submitted does limit cut-through traffic by providing a circuitous route. It does require 4 sharp turns, and they would be narrow streets in the subdivision that we believe would not have a large impact on cut-through traffic. The proposal does maintain the concept of turning Park Village Boulevard into a greenway, and the applicant has also submitted revised proffers that does proffer extensive landscaping within this buffer area. Access to Ashland Road would be used as the primary location for construction traffic, and the request as submitted now is now consistent with the comprehensive plan's transportation strategy and the county's access management standards, and is also in compliance with VDOT's recommendation. So this would be the revised submittal. This here, location here is where that connector road was committed to in 2013 and part of the code requirements to be constructed. With the proffer amendment, they would be changing this to a greenway, and then with the rezoning case, and they would be adding 65 additional lots. So you would need the entrance here would be to Ashland Road. It would be a shared entrance with this commercial development. As that's developed. So it would be a turn off of Ashland Road, a turn here. You would not be able to go left to on Shenfield. You would only be able to go right into the new development. You would then make a left and then a right and then out onto the existing boulevard. So that would be the route of travel. There's been a lot of questions of why are we requiring this road? Well, we are not requiring it. It's already been a code requirement. It was part of the 2013 zoning case. It's based on that being part of the zoning case and part of being approved. It was done in 2013 when the staff used that information when they did the 2015 review of the comprehensive plan. Based on that connector road, we did add additional land for residential development because we did feel like connectivity could be met and addressed with that new roadway. So that the proposal for that commitment that was made in 2013 was significant in our decisions of when we updated the comprehensive plan in 2015. If that connection was not made, the only access to the site would be from 2 entrances on Pouncey Track Road. Staff would not have approved the subdivision of this size with only those 2 entrances because the roads are too close together. We do show some pictures here. This is standing, look at one entrance on Pouncey Track Road. You can see the distance to the second entrance. And then this is the second entrance. This was actually designed as a private road. You can see that it has an awkward jog in it with the car wash here, and then many times cars just pull right out of Aw Shucks. So this is not an entrance that we would want to encourage additional, lots of additional traffic on. The county code does require connectivity. Connectivity redistributes traffic across the entire street network, and traffic safety can be improved with the combination of street connectivity and traffic calming measures such as using narrow streets and hard turns, which this proposal does do. And just to clarify, VDOT has recommended the full access connection to Ashland Road. There has been 3 community meetings on this project. The applicant should be commended. They have worked long and hard to try to address a lot of the neighborhood's concerns, as well as addressing all the county requirements. The first meeting, we had about 125 people. Again, the crux of most of the community meetings have dealt with the road issues. We had a second community meeting in May when they came back with a traffic impact analysis. Also, again, had about 125 citizens at that meeting. And then following the Planning Commission meeting in August, the applicant had a third community meeting to share with the residents the proposal that's before you tonight. We did have 3 board members and 3 Planning Commission members at that meeting, and about 75 residents. Again, the majority of the discussions revolved around the road network. So with the proffer amendment, the applicant is asking to make 2 changes, one dealing with the conceptual plan. They've updated it to the plan that I showed you, which eliminates that Park Village Boulevard through that one portion of being a direct connection to Ashland Road. And then it would remove that 10C language regarding the construction of the connector road that I read to you earlier in the presentation. So those are the 2 changes to the proffers. I have included in the presentation all the other proffers. However, Parkside Village is 118 lots. It's completely built out, so there's probably no need to review those in any detail. So that is the presentation on the proffer amendment. Does the commission have any questions before I cover the rezoning case?
Anyone?
No? Okay, then I'll go move to the...
One question.
Sure.
Item 2 on here, request amendments to the proffer submitted to amend the conceptual plan, and 2, delete the requirement for the Ashland Road connector.
Yeah, and that is confusing. It is deleting it in that location, but it would be included
Still
in the
has it.
rezoning case.
Okay.
Deleting the requirement.
It's deleting the direct connection between Ashland and Pouncey Track. So the rezoning, of course, is also a request by Markel Eagle. It's a request to rezone 28.7 acres to RPUD with proffers. This would function as Parkside Section 4, and many of the proffers are very similar in nature, and the development proposed would be similar to Parkside Section 1, 2, and 3. They are proposing a 65-lot age-restricted subdivision. You can see here, this is the area that's designated suburban residential, is in yellow. What they are asking for rezoning falls all within that suburban residential designation. And the reason why that designation sort of has an odd shape is there is quarries located just to the south west from there. We do have a code in our provision that no new residential is built within 1,000 feet of quarries, so that red shows the quarry boundary, so they would be taking homes, if approved, the rezoning is approved, right to where that boundary is. I've reviewed the conceptual plan with the last case, but here it is again with the access off of Ashland Road. To further address connectivity concerns of staff, the applicant has also provided 3 stubs to adjacent parcels. As I indicated before, it's a 65-lot age-restricted development. Would be Parkside 4. Parkside Section 1, 2, and 3 sold out very quickly. It's a very popular subdivision. The property is located in the Tuckahoe Creek Service District. The density is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the request is in compliance with the comprehensive plan's transportation strategies and access management standards. As you know, the proffer language changed in 2016, and the county went through a capital impact model. The applicant has certified that they would like to use the capital impact model to address their capital impacts. So this subdivision was run as an adult senior housing development, which has less capital impacts than a full family subdivision. So the full capital impacts for this development is $490,815. When you look at the capacity triggered, which is a requirement with the proffer legislation, the full capital impacts would be $320,929. And you can see that here. It's broken down per housing unit. There's no school costs because this is an age-restricted development, and the age restriction further goes on to say that no one under the age of 19 can live in the development or receive services. They would be paying per unit $803 for parks and recreation, $1,536 for public safety, and $2,598 for transportation, for a total proffer of just under $5,000. Because we are showing the capital impacts, we don't want to be one-sided. We also like to show the revenue. These are very rough numbers that were done by staff. So there are two types of revenue with these types of projects. There are one-time revenues for fees, and then there are recurring revenues. We believe the recurring revenues for this project per year would be between $200,000 and $340,000, and then the one-time fees based on building permit fees, sewer connection fees, plat review fees, that sort of thing would be about $750,000. As I indicated, the proffers are very similar to the proffers that were submitted with Parkside Section 1, 2, or 3. The conceptual plan is proffered that I've showed you. They have proffered no more than 65 single-family residential houses. This is the age restriction proffer. This is based on the fair housing law, that they can discriminate and not allow anybody under the age of 55 purchase in the property, and then it goes on to say that nobody under the age of 19 can live there or get any services. They have an architecture and exterior building material proffer that they exposed exterior walls would be brick, stone, cementitious siding, EIFS, or a combination thereof. This number 5 is important because of the location of the quarry, and that there's commercial development adjacent to this property, and it is in the TCASD. We would want them to disclose that information in their marketing and on their deeds, so that nobody buys it and doesn't know that. Probably should have added that there was going to be a road in there in the first set. So. Pedestrian access, pedestrian trails shall be provided as generally shown on the conceptual plan that ran through the buffer area, the Green Bay area, and they would have sidewalks on at least one side of each street. They have a landscape plan that would require a planting of one ornamental tree in the front of every yard. All roads would be public roads. And then this is new proffer language from what you had saw last month. This is that buffer proffer for the Greenway. States the northwestern line of the Park Village Boulevard extension, as shown, shall be landscaped with a combination of evergreen shrubs planted 5 feet on center, measuring not less than 3 feet height at the time of planting, and evergreen trees planted 10 feet on center, measuring not less than 6 feet in height at time of planting. And these are pretty sizable trees at planting. Shrubs, we actually recommended to the applicant that they should probably go with smaller shrubs, but they had made a commitment to the neighborhood, and they are willing to do it at that size. The cash proffer, the applicant has certified that they want to use the capital impact model. So those are the proffers. So again, these, you have 2 zoning cases. The first one is the proffer amendment. The second one is the rezoning. I can answer questions about either one of them prior to opening the public hearing. When you close the public hearing, we will need 2 separate votes. Right. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions? Yeah, I have 1 or 2.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, were the first 3 sections of this subdivision also age restricted?
Yes.
Okay. On the issue of on the issue of sidewalks, I don't believe the zoning ordinance requires sidewalks. This is something that is recommended by staff.
Right, this is all addressed through proffers, and I believe the same proffers were in existence. I think there's proffers for sidewalks along one side of each street
Right.
in the first section as
And
well.
given this type of development, RPUD, we would expect there to be sidewalks.
Yes.
Good, thanks.
My only question follows yours. Sections 1, 2, and 3 are 65 and older?
55,
Right, this is this second one though is 65.
55.
55.
65
65
maximum lots.
Yeah, but
It-
I
It's,
thought his age restriction says 65 and older.
do we,
The quantity is 65.
I think it's 65 lots, 55 age.
Section 4 was 65 age restricted.
65
Parcel.
age-restricted
Lots.
lots, so
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
It's
55.
confusing.
Right, it is confusing, but the
That's me.
the age restriction is based on federal fair housing laws, and
Right.
it is 55.
Okay.
Very good. All right,
And
any
I
other
do want to
questions?
clarify,
Yeah.
there is a provision in that fair housing law that they can, as people die or if someone inherits a house, there is a provision that 20% can be sold to less than 55 to sort of stopgap any issues.
Right. Any other questions for Ms. Hunter? Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the concept plan up.
I think the applicant has a presentation,
Oh,
so I'll just
Yeah, yeah.
bring.
Now, we'll ask the applicant to come forward, and I assume that they will address both of the applications together, as did Ms. Hunter.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Croft. I am the Director of Land Planning for Eagle Construction here on behalf of Markel Eagle Advisors. I'll read the certification. The proffers in this case are being voluntarily offered to address impacts specifically attributable to the proposed development. The proffers are reasonable under state law. All right. Again, thank you to Ms. Hunter, members of the commission. I am here representing the applicant, Markel Eagle, who will be developing the site. We are requesting a proffer amendment and a new rezoning to construct the fourth section of Parkside Village, an age-restricted community in the very tip of the northeast corner of Goochland County. Sections 1 through 3 are entirely built out with 118 single-family homes. We are proposing Section 4 to add a maximum of 65 single-family homes, resulting in an overall total of 183. At the Planning Commission hearing last month, the majority of feedback we heard centered around a connection to Ashland Road. Staff, EMS, and VDOT all noted their strong recommendations for this connection, and residents of the neighborhood expressed their concerns regarding cut-through traffic that such a connection would bring. We also heard the Commission's directive to improve the application to better address these concerns. We took that challenge to heart and have revised our plan to satisfy both concerns. While we have provided the requested connection to Ashland Road, our commitment to the neighborhood is twofold. We will minimize potential cut-through traffic by creating an uninviting and unattractive route for motorists looking to avoid the traffic light. And two, we will isolate what minimal potential impact remains to Section 4 by ensuring that motorists who do attempt to cut through will not use any of the existing streets in Sections 1 through 3, with the exception of that portion of Park Village Boulevard already constructed. Here's a close-up of the Ashland Road access point. The black dashed line is the edge of the Ashland Road right-of-way. The series of short roadway segments and hard 90-degree turns will make this access feel difficult and uninviting to those motorists looking for a shortcut, and will truly serve as a back entrance to Parkside Village rather than an attractive and easy cut-through route. You will also notice that this entrance does not connect to Shenfield Avenue, which was a direct response to our commitment to not put any potential cut-through traffic in front of any existing home in Parkside Village. As you can see, should anyone attempt to cut through the neighborhood, the route in pink is the route they would take. This route essentially takes the two existing limits of the boulevard and serves as a detour through the new section. Through traffic would not be dispersed onto any of the existing streets, except for the already constructed Park Village Boulevard, which was designed and constructed with a 35-foot buffer and a wider right-of-way to accommodate a higher volume of traffic than the interior roadways. An additional concern we heard at last month's meeting was that the previous layout had an inequitable distribution of Section 4 traffic through the existing neighborhood, with almost all of Section 4 traffic utilizing the southern portion of Yare Street. In the revised layout, the southern section of Yare Street is still extended into Section 4. However, the traffic distribution is much more balanced. Park Village Boulevard is serving as it was designed and intended to collect and funnel traffic from the neighborhood to Pontchartrain Road. Our revised layout keeps the greenway, which would be flanked with landscape berms and would include a 5-foot wide asphalt trail connecting to the pedestrian access ways already present in Parkside. Open lawn areas, benches, and a focal landscaping feature would serve to anchor the space. The portion of Section 4 roadway that is adjacent to the greenway would be landscaped to match Park Village Boulevard with tall evergreen shrubs and evergreen trees. This landscaping is proffered and would serve as a terminus of the greenway and as a buffer from the new Section 4 roadway. Is there a pointer? I just want to show exactly where that is. Oh, look at that. All right, so from D, this section right here is where we would proffer that additional heavy landscaping. And this is a photo of what is existing on Park Village Boulevard today, which is, I guess, the inspiration or jumping off point, keeping it consistent with that. In summary, we have provided the access to Ashland Road requested by staff, VDOT, and EMS, while still ensuring that not one cut-through motorist will travel past the front door of any existing home in Parkside Village or use any existing street within the neighborhood aside from the portion of Park Village Boulevard already constructed. We believe that this layout is much more appropriate and compatible with the neighborhood than the currently proffered boulevard, and serves to minimize and mitigate any potential impacts to those residents who call Parkside Village home. We appreciate staff's consideration and respectfully request your recommendation of approval this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Croft.
Thank you.
I'm going to open the public comment period and ask anyone who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to these applications. There are two, proffer amendment and the rezoning. We'll ask you to come forward, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. So,
my name is Wayne Dasher, 7280 Ellingham Court. I believe the Goochland County Planning Commission has a duty to protect the health, safety, and welfare of county residents. At last month's meeting, the commission failed to meet that duty. Eagle made a proffer that had the support of a majority of the Parkside Village residents to provide only emergency access from Ashland Road. The proffer did not pass because some of the commissioners would not vote against the comprehensive plan. I believe the comprehensive plan violates the following county ordinance. Sub-collector and local residential access streets shall connect with surrounding streets to permit the convenient movement of traffic between residential neighborhoods or facilitate emergency access and evacuation, but such connections shall not, not should not, shall not be permitted, where the effect would be to encourage the use of such streets by substantial through traffic. And I know how to get to it in the ordinances if you need it. I have also been assured by the county attorney, Ms. McGee, that the Planning Commission is not forcing a connector road. I told her that she was mistaken. We would not be here tonight if the commissioners had not forced a connector road from Ashland Road to Pontchartrain. I believe the commission should revisit the prior proffer and approve it, since the prior proffer vote was a tie. If the commission will not revisit, I believe the current proffer should be rejected on the basis of the safety of the neighborhood and the county ordinance. I'm also opposed to the additional cut through to Parkside Village Boulevard. And I think that was just pointed out by Natalie. The community is designed to give almost all residents a backyard that is subject only to foot traffic. The current proffer puts traffic directly behind several homes.
Sir, we'll ask you, you're a little over your time. Please continue, but we'll ask you to keep in mind
I have
that there
3
will be
lines
others who
left.
would like to speak.
3 lines left.
Fine.
Several homes, and will leave us with no privacy in our yards. After Eagle representatives assured us there would not be a road behind our house. That's all I have.
Yeah, I didn't cut him off, he finished, but that's a good point.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, a point has just been made that since we're taking up 2 separate cases, and our protocol rules of procedure are 3 minutes for each case, and we'll certainly allow a little extra time. So I hope you were able to finish, sir. Thank you.
Now,
let's do-
it's your call.
Why don't we do 4?
All right.
Anyone else?
Okay. You can let them know now if you want, so that way they understand.
My name is Margaret Levitt, and my address is 7036 Ben Hall Circle. My concerns as they pertain to the applications filed by Mark L. Eagle regarding Parkside Village remain the connection to Ashland Road. I have been a resident of Parkside Village since December of 2015. Since becoming a resident of Goochland County, I've taken an active interest in my community, a community about which I care deeply. I attended the Goochland County Town Hall last fall, asking whether there was any information regarding a rumored Parkside Village Section 4. The Director of Community Development took my name and email address and said they had been working with Mark L. Eagle and would be sure to send me information once it was formally filed with the county. I was pleasantly surprised that, in fact, the Director followed through without my having to follow up. The transparency was and continues to be refreshing. I have attended all the meetings held by Mark L. Eagle for the residents of Parkside Village, as well as last month's Planning Commission meeting, the outcome of which I found very disappointing. I left confused and frustrated. I attended the major thoroughfare planning meeting on August 9th in hopes of educating myself about the comprehensive plan so I could better understand the staff's and several members of the Planning Commission's position regarding Parkside Village Section 4, and specifically the insistence on maintaining a connection to Ashland Road. Based on the hierarchy of priorities considered as it pertains to the roadways, safety seemed to take precedence over connectivity. When I asked the question to decipher whether this was the case, the answer I received boiled down to yes, except when it doesn't. Again, I left confused and frustrated. As I recall from the Planning Commission meeting on August 2nd, lack of connectivity was the reason the Director of Planning and Community Development gave for not supporting the amendment to delete the requirement for the connector to Ashland Road. Again, to be clear, I am against any connection to Ashland Road on the basis of safety. While I understand that the applications brought by Mark L. Eagle today reflect their desire to address connectivity concerns expressed by the county and to address the concerns of the residents of Parkside Village regarding cut-through traffic, and revise their plans to have the connection go through Section 4 so that no potential cut-through traffic would pass in front of any existing homes in Section 1 to 3. I ask, by having it go through Section 4, how is connectivity achieved? Furthermore, the response for EMS was an important issue. raised during the meeting on August 2nd and was appropriately addressed by Markel Eagle's proposal to install an electronic gate for EMS to access Parkside Village via Ashland Road. If you recall, the fire chief was there and supported this proposed solution. With the applications presented today, EMS response times to residents living in Section 3 are not improved. Insisting on a connector to Ashland Road ignores safety concerns. Please consider that our neighborhood is a 55 and older community. Some of our residents suffer hearing impairment, some mobility issues. To accept any level of cut-through traffic through our neighborhood is ignoring the unique makeup of our neighborhood. And to achieve connectivity, I ask again, how is connectivity facilitated by routing traffic through Section 4? How is EMS response time enhanced? With a connection to Ashland Road, even with a turn lane for vehicles entering Parkside Village, there will be accidents. The potential for serious accidents and injury, however, will be for those vehicles turning left onto Ashland Road from Parkside Village. Is this a risk you're willing to take for what is being sold as connectivity? Beyond these concerns, there is the ordinance that my friend Mr. Drescher addressed with you, so I will not go into that. But I will say, with drivers using technology to navigate travel, understanding that traffic will only increase along Ashland Road with development, and knowing that there are no plans by VDOT to improve the intersection at Pouncey Track and Ashland Road, no matter where the connection enters our neighborhood, there will be cut-through traffic, and we can only expect that to increase. The comprehensive plan addresses local roads, and I quote, "In residential areas, local roads should facilitate circulation within the neighborhood and discourage through traffic." I hope that you will hear my concerns regarding safety and perhaps defer the vote so that they can work together to find a better plan. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Levitt. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Lisa Penny, 7281 Ellingham Court.
Yeah,
Not
could you
the
bring the
best
mic up so we can hear? There we go.
Lisa Penny, 7281 Ellingham Court. I'm not the best speaker, and I'm not going to sound professional like the past two. I did send each one of you all an email, and I requested if you could possibly come out and drive through our subdivision and see what you thought for yourselves. Was anyone able to do that this week?
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with the subdivision. I've
Okay.
driven through many times.
Okay. Well, as you can see, this new layout, if it was to be blown up, it would go directly behind my house and several neighbors. And Eagle again had said they don't want any cut through in the front of people's houses, but they're not thinking about the people directly behind. That's my main living space. It's my bedroom, my family room, my screened-in porch, and my new patio. Everybody's front yard basically has a garage.
There's a pointer. Could you point to your and your neighbor's lots that you were referencing? Joe, maybe you could help her.
We're right there.
So those lots on the cul-de-sac, there?
Yes.
Because that'll back up to the green space.
No, can we blow that up? And I'll show you. No, that's just why I wanted people to, I would like for someone to drive through this and see what Eagle is presenting. And the reason half this room is empty is because at the last meeting, Eagle misled, I think, all of us by thinking there was no cut-through road. Because I emailed my neighbors, and a lot of them thought, oh, there's no cut-through road. I said, yes, there is. The way Eagle, in the way you, Mr. Rocker Charlie, misunderstood the writing, how it said that there would be no cut-through road to Ashland Road. We all misunderstood that. But is there any way to blow that up?
Yeah, I still don't know which lot is yours, ma'am. Could you?
Oops. Oops. I I know there's gotta be a bigger picture than that, cause I actually have one, and I'll show it to you in paper.
All right, so that's your lot there on the cul-de-sac?
This one, okay, so this is that
That's-
applicant's drawing.
That's the road, and ours is where it says in the red, right over here. I mean, right there. How are you touching? This right here. That's ours, this is our neighbors through here.
So that would be green space headed behind them.
We're at lot 13 right here.
Yeah, that would be green space headed
That's a
behind
green
them.
We say this is green space?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but how much green space? I was told when I bought this lot that there would be no road behind my house from Eagle representatives. And now they're telling me there's gonna be this cut-through road, as y'all could clearly see, a cut-through road right behind my house. No one else has road behind their house, they just have it in the front.
Well, I think it looks like the green space is between
There
the
is
local
green space,
road
but
and
can I,
your,
how much green space do you think? Eagle promised me no road.
This is the road.
The road is from here to here. And if you, that's why I asked people to come out and see how close that green space is to my backyard and my neighbors through here. It's very close, and green space is not gonna block out the headlights and the noise that's coming from this cut-through traffic. And I think Eagle is doing this to possibly appease the people on Yar Street, thinking that they can't have that many houses, that many residents come out of that subdivision, out of their road, when one of the other ladies just pointed out there were 70, let me see,
Time.
yeah,
Yes.
pointed out on the new section over here would be 72 homes coming out. Well, Shinfield is handling 78 homes just fine, and it's the same size road as Yar Street. Let me see what else I have. I'm not gonna,
we'll certainly give you a little extra time because I interrupted you with some questions.
also, with this being changed, again, I think it's in favor of the people on the Yard Street cul-de-sac, favoring to them to have this cut through, because they were the ones that suggested it. They have a 200-foot buffer in their backyard, which will never, ever be built on. And again, I was told when I bought that lot, there would be no road. So, should I really feel that Eagle's gonna build this so-called greenway in front of my house? And even if they do, it's not gonna block out the headlights that are coming through the trees and the noise.
Okay, not to interrupt you again, but I guess I'll have to.
Go
It
ahead.
appears, if that's your lot there with the
13.
footprint on it, that the green space behind your lot extends from 44 feet to 140 feet. Is that correct, Joanne?
That's the way I read it, yes.
I think it's an average of 60 is the way they propose it,
Well,
but it looks,
and then you have my neighbors right here who is slammed right up against the road. We actually have this one little piece of, right here. It's greenway, but how much is greenway?
it extends from 44 feet to 140. That's the, am I right here, Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
This is the depth of the greenway, 140 feet. This is the depth here, 70, and this is the depth here, 44. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I'm not,
Miss Penny's lot is this one up here,
Lot 13.
lot
Yes.
13.
and my neighbors are right beside me in lot 14, and then my neighbors beside me in
This
lot
is
15.
the greenway.
Yeah, it's
behind
not much,
her lot.
it will not be much of a greenway. I don't care what Eagle says. It's not gonna be much of a greenway behind my house. It will not block out the noise. It will not block out the headlights. And that's why I wanted everyone to come drive through a neighborhood and see where that road actually is gonna be. And also, these houses right here that they're putting 19 and 18, there's supposed to be a driveway coming in off those roads. Right there. There's a driveway coming into these new homes. Now please tell me, how can they, this cut through traffic, and these poor people right here cutting through their homes right there, pull it into their driveway?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. I'm the other half, Jeff Penny, from Lucky Lot 13.
Right.
I'm confused, concerned, puzzled. The theme clearly has always been safety. I don't quite understand, as Wayne had mentioned earlier, had all 5 of you been at last month's meeting, we wouldn't be here. I don't know what happened to that proposal. I don't know who Eagle has really spoken to since that last meeting, but they've done a 180 on us. There are more questions than answers, and I am asking tonight for a continuance so that some of these questions can be addressed, that maybe our neighbors who are being impacted, we can get together and see what our options are, whether we need legal counsel. We were hit with this last Monday night. We've been stoned since holiday weekend. There's not much that really has gone on since we got this news. I didn't expect such a turnaround. I would have imagined Eagle would have done their homework before they presented to you back in early August. Why is that proposal not on the docket tonight? I would love to know, and maybe this is a public forum and an opportunity to have it recorded, who exactly Eagle did speak to from last month to last Monday. Such a drastic change in a short period of time. Yes, we are impacted. Headlights, road noise. We were told specifically. My wife and I just moved off of 295 in Henrico County. We backed up to 295. We were looking for a peaceful lot. When we bought our lot, there were plenty other lots. But we really loved that lot. But we saw that makeshift road, and that was our first question. Is there going to be a road behind our house? I assume the $5,000 surcharge might have had something on my lot, might have had something to do with the greenway or the size of the lot. I was misled. They've pulled that away. Another reason that I'm asking for a continuance is I think that we talk about that greenway space. You've driven through the neighborhood. There ain't much there now. I really don't know. I know that they're willing to make some modifications for those people being impacted, whether it's a wall, a berm, bushes, shrubs, 3 feet, 6 feet. How long are they going to take to grow? I really don't know what that plan is, but I think it's only fair that I get that plan in writing from Eagle so that I have something in writing and won't face another situation where, no, Mr. Penny, there's not going to be a road behind your house. And I paid extra for that lot. So I would heavily consider taking in a continuance tonight so that more time can be given to this important decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward?
Hi, Ray Nipheisen, 7173 Yard Street. I'm one of those people that some of us don't like. I know, no offense, I didn't mean that. And I didn't understand that there was going to be a road cut through to Ashland when I looked at the map and I read the notes for today. So that's shame on me, I didn't follow up with it. I'm in this house right about there. And given the options that were provided previously, it became clear that an Ashland connector was somewhat mandatory. Maybe that's the wrong word. And if it doesn't go straight through on Parkside, where that greenway is, which was the original proffer, I think what is on the table is probably the best option for everybody, including the folks in Section 4 that aren't able to be represented because there's no homes. I can tell you when I bought the house, my wife and I didn't know that Yard Street might be a connector or that Parkside might be a connector. I didn't know there was a 2013 proffer that had Parkside connecting through. Shame on me for not doing the homework on that. And frankly, shame on all of us in Parkside. So for those of us saying, you know, we didn't know that was going to be there, there wasn't going to be a road, there was always going to be a road, and I think everybody in the real estate business, and you guys knew that, us buying did not know that. So here we are trying to make lemonade out of the lemons that we have. If you folks, the 5 of you, think we need a connector through Parkside to Ashland Road, I think this is the best option. I think it's the least impactful to the existing homes, and it's offers some pretty good options for the folks in Section 4 when they start to come out. Is it ideal? No, but what is? I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one come forward, would the applicant like to respond?
Thank you. Again, we have listened to the community. We have listened to staff, to the commissioners, to VDOT's recommendation. And after last month's public hearing, it really became abundantly clear to us that a connection to Ashland Road was strongly encouraged by VDOT, strongly encouraged by EMS, strongly encouraged by planning, while strongly discouraged by the neighborhood. We are walking that really fine line, trying to find a good compromise and good balance between both. We feel we have done that while still holding true to the comprehensive plan. I have heard Mr. and Mrs. Penny's concerns. The 2 bold dashed lines, so this right here is where the boulevard would have gone, between these 2 dashed lines. It is already constructed up to here. Up to here is already there today. So our plan to pull that away from those residents as tightly of a radius as VDOT will allow was what we felt was the best solution overall. We are proffering that intensively landscaped buffer along the roadway here to match that that's already present in Parkside along the boulevard here. We spoke with our landscaper in order to come up with that solution, and we feel that in a very short period of time, it will be a very stable, solid screen against noise and headlights. We are continuing to work with those homes, those neighbors affected the most, but at this time we are proffering that extra landscaping and again continuing to work further with them. But I feel that this removes the most impact from the existing neighborhood while minimizing any impact to Section 4. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any further comments or any questions we have for the applicant while she's there? Well, you're not supposed to, but you can ask us a question. We'll open the floor to you again.
I'm happy to answer that question.
Sure. Would you?
When it became clear that the access to Ashland Road was really going to be necessary, our goal became twofold. One was minimize the potential cut-through traffic at all costs, and the second was to ensure that no cut-through traffic would go in front of any homes in sections 1 through 3. They will not use any of the streets that are already constructed in sections 1 through 3, except for Park Village Boulevard. Putting it, you know, shifting an impact from one place to the next, I think we could do that a lot of more iterations.
Very good.
But I think, again, this really minimizes that impact and holds firm that it doesn't connect to Shenfield. No cut-through traffic would come onto Yare Street,
Very good.
none on Washbrook, et
You're
cetera.
going to have to limit your presentation, Ms. Croft, as we do everyone else, so thank
Sure,
you.
sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we understood the point.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Does staff have any comment? Do the members have any comments they'd like to make on this issue?
My concerns have been satisfied.
All right, well, let me see if I can summarize. This is in my district, and I'm quite familiar with the neighborhood. Of course, the Parkway coming off Pontchartrain is a wider than a local road. It was intended as a parkway. It was proffered as a connection between Ashland Road and Pontchartrain when the property was rezoned, before there was a subdivision, before any lots were laid out. It was there. It was recommended by VDOT, and it was there. Now, if someone said it was going to somehow mysteriously go away, we can't, that isn't in our purview. All we can look at is what was proffered and what is on the county record when the property was zoned. Now, that said, it seems to me, if I can quickly summarize, that when we deferred the case for a month, it was done purposely. My vote in support, in all honesty, forged the tie vote, voting last as chairman. And that was done purposely so we could defer the case to give the applicant and the staff time to work together. And I think they've done an admirable job of coming up with a compromise that seems to work. So in summary, what staff is recommending here, or what they're supporting, is a revised proffer amendment to replace the western portion of the parkway, the western portion, with a 60 feet or average 60 feet wide common area greenway and reroute access between Ashland and Pontchartrain through section 4. This includes turn lanes, both acceleration and deceleration, off both of the arterial roads, Ashland and Pontchartrain. And that will accommodate both general access and emergency vehicles. Entering the subdivision from either Ashland or Pontchartrain, 4 turns, and I've looked through this in some detail, and staff has confirmed this, 4 turns are required. 4 turns to reach the other arterial road, thereby, it seems to me, discouraging through traffic. This routing complies with the county's comprehensive plan guidelines and the VDOT recommendation to connect arterial roads. It seems to me that we have a reasonable application here as it has been revised. Would anyone else like to add to that?
I received about, I think it was 12 emails regarding this, and I thank everybody for sending them. You know, it's very important that we get the public input on this. Last month, when I voted along with John, I was hoping that the developer would come up with this plan that would restrict the Ashland Road access by some means to prevent anyone coming out that way unless it's an emergency. That seemed to be the big concern. And the fire chief agreed that, and they have them elsewhere in the county, control gates with sensors that are tied into the fire alarms and the police and fire rescue vehicles to prevent traffic through. As an alternative to that, what they have proposed with a zigzag approach, I think in somewhat will discourage some through traffic. Now, if Ashland Road over the years at the light at Hollis backs up, I can't say that that's going to solve the problem. If you get a 500, 600-foot backup of traffic there at Hollis, I'm sure people are going to figure out how they can zigzag through. They do through my neighborhood, even though I don't have a major interchange that would defer that. So I think I'm still concerned with that. But since that hasn't been proposed, I'm going to reserve my feeling on how I vote until I hear from everybody else on the commission.
Okay, gentlemen?
I like I like what I see in comparison to the original proposal, even though the original proposal was as proffered during the rezoning. I think it's a good compromise.
My concerns have been satisfied. I think this is a reasonable compromise on both sides. I favor it.
Mr. Duke?
I agree with that. Yeah. I think it's a good
All right,
compromise.
any further comments? All right, gentlemen, we act on motion.
I move that we accept.
Good, God.
We have two.
Correct.
Well, one of them can second and one can move, right?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded.
On
RZ.
RZ 2013-0001B, the
This
proffer
is-
amendment.
This is the proffer amendment, voting on the proffer amendment.
And that was motioned by who? Sorry?
Mr.
Motion-
Duke?
Mr. Duke?
Mr. Duke? And seconded by
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Myers. Motion to
Recommend approval.
Recommend
recommend
approval.
approval.
Is there any further discussion? It's, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the proffer amendment as before us this evening. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay?
Okay, 4-1, Ms.
Motion passes.
Pardon?
The motion passes.
Motion passes 4-1.
And then we need to vote on.
Yes, the next issue is the rezoning of the 65 additional lots. Is there any discussion on that before we seek a motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion?
I motion that we recommend approval.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the application to rezone the parcel for 65 additional lots. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is recommended for approval, 5-0.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Hunter, I think we have one more item on the agenda.
We do. Do you want to give a moment for the room to clear?
Yes, we'll take a moment, please.
Sarah, do you?
I don't remember who.
Yeah.
It probably because I remember seeing him move, I was looking to move back.
I mean,
You've got it.
All right, gentlemen, everybody ready to proceed? Ms. Hunter?
I'll let Ms. Worley read the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, this is a countywide ordinance amendment. It's an ordinance to revise the provisions regarding housing facilities for seniors and zoning ordinance, specifically to delete the definition for homes for the aged and remove from the A1 and RR districts to amend the definition of nursing home to add a definition for assisted living facility and to permit the use with a conditional use permit in the RR district, to add definitions for continuing care retirement community and senior congregate living facility, and to permit the uses with the CUP in the RPUD district and subject to site yard requirements, and to provide parking requirements for these uses.
Thank you, Ms. Worley. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Joanne Hunter, Director of Community Development. As we indicated, this is an ordinance amendment dealing with adult housing. Purpose of this ordinance is that there has been an increased interest in the county for adult housing housing options. Two recent developments were required zoning interpretation letters to use an existing code language as homes for the age. Homes for the age is a sort of an unclear and antiquated term, which we are recommending that we delete that from the code and to address some of these new uses. Just like we were talking previously at the pre-meeting about our zoning ordinance rewrite, our zoning ordinance is a bit out of date. It doesn't address some of these modern uses. These types of uses dealing with adult housing or some of these new uses that would have been addressed by the zoning rewrite, but because we had two projects come forward, we decided to address it now. So this would be a comprehensive review of all adult housing options. So we looked at nursing homes, assisted living facilities, continuing care retirement communities, and congregate living options. So there's several things that the ordinance would address. Number one, it would provide new, clear definitions for these adult housing uses. It would make the definitions, when possible, consistent with the state code. And it would establish in which districts these uses are permitted. The ordinance also makes changes to the RPUD district because we are recommending some of these new uses to be proposed for that district. And then finally, it addresses parking requirements for these uses. So it is a whole comprehensive look at adult housing. So the first thing I want to review with you is changes and additions to the definitions. There are 5 types of adult housing options. They are assisted living facilities, continuing care retirement communities, homes for the age is what is currently in our code. We would be recommending that that term be deleted. Nursing home, that's currently already in our ordinance. We are updating the definition to be consistent with state code, and then another new use of senior congregate care. So the first one that we're going to delete is the homes for the aged. So right now the code says that any place, however designated, operated or maintained for the maintenance or care of 4 or more aged, infirm, chronically ill, or incapacitated persons, except a facility licensed by the state Board of Health. It's very confusing. What does that mean? So we're removing that and actually using more clear terms. One of those terms that is nursing home, that is a current use that's allowed by our ordinance. However, we are revising it to be in compliance with the state code. So this definition, this language is directly out of the state code. So the previous definition talked about, you know, caring for 2 or more people who needed convalescent care, that sort of thing. The new definition based on state code would be a facility or identifiable component of a facility licensed in accordance with the state code, where their primary function is to provide nursing services and health-related services for the treatment and inpatient care of 2 or more unrelated individuals, including facilities known as convalescent homes, skilled nursing facilities, skilled care facilities, intermediate care, extended care facilities, and nursing care facilities. So nursing home covers many different gamuts. They're all under the same licensing of through the Virginia State Code and would all be nursing homes. Assisted living facility is currently a use in our zoning ordinance. However, it was never defined. So we would be adding a definition, and this definition is also out of the state code. So assisted living facility is a residential setting that provides or coordinates personal and health care, requires 24-hour supervision, assistance for the maintenance of care of 4 or more adults who are aged, infirmed, or disabled. It talks about the licensing that's required from the State Board of Health, and goes on and on. So pretty similar to a nursing home, as already read. A new use is continuing care retirement community. This is something that we're seeing across the country more recently. This is not regulated by state code, continuing care retirement communities. So we did come up with this definition: a facility that provides persons 62 years of age or older with board, lodging, and nursing services pursuant to agreements effective for the life of the individual or for a period in excess of 1 year, and in consideration of an entrance fee where a full continuum of housing options and assistance is provided on one property, ranging from fully independent living units with or without kitchen facilities to assistance with personal care and assisted living facilities to nursing home facilities. So to be a continuing care retirement community, it typically requires an entrance fee. You buy in, and then you are provided guaranteed housing throughout the rest of your lifetime. You typically go in when you're well as an independent living, and then you transition through your life. They often have nursing services that come to your home, and then when you progress past that, then they move you to an assisted living facility. They often have memory care units, but you do pay an entrance fee, and you live your lifetime out in that project. The county is very excited about a continuing care retirement community that's coming to Goochland. This is the Erickson project. The county planning commission reviewed this about 5 or 6 months ago, the conceptual master plan. This is going over off of Wilkes Ridge Parkway Extended. This is about 1,450 units. About 1,200 of those units would be independent living units, and then about 250 beds would be for assisted living, memory care, and those types of uses. These are sort of one stop, provides all your services, meals, entertainment, transportation, all of that, beauty parlors, things like that are all met on site. And this is the elevations. These uses are typically large buildings, often 3 or 4 stories tall. The other new use that we would be proposing to add is a senior congregate living facility. This is a residential facility for persons 62 years of age or older that includes independent living units with or without kitchen facilities that provide residents at least one shared meal a day. Other shared meals, services, or amenities may be offered. So this is a type of facility more like the Cameron General Contractors that you heard 2 months ago, I believe it was. So this is typically one building, not multiple buildings, but they do provide congregate care. It's not just an apartment complex for older people. It provides congregate shared meals. It provides entertainment, that sort of thing. These are also large buildings, 3 or 4 stories tall, but all the residents, well elderly, live here, and all of their needs can be met on site. However, they do not buy into that property. It's typically just a monthly fee, and as they progress and need further services such as an assisted living or nursing home, they need to then move out of the senior congregate care.
Ms. Hunter, just a question. Nursing care is not provided in this type facility, correct?
It is not a required if they had somebody who came in or anything like that, but it's not a typical service of that type of use.
The Cameron General Contractors project on Patterson Avenue is this type facility.
Yes, correct. This is generally for well elderly, and then once they progress, they would move to another facility.
Independent living versus assisted living.
Yes. So what districts are these uses permitted in? Where do we allow them? So there's the green on the right-hand side is the proposed ordinance. The red on the left-hand side is the existing ordinance. So right now, the only uses we had were 3 terms. Homes for the aged, which with this ordinance amendment, we're recommending be deleted because it's confusing and it's an antiquated term. So right now, we only have nursing homes and assisted living facilities. So the new uses are dealing generally more with this well elderly and new places to live for people as they age in place. So all of these uses are CUP uses. None of them with the existing ordinance were allowed by right, and none of them in the proposed ordinance are by right. But you can, in the A1, A2, and RR districts, you could do nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And in the proposed ordinance, we are making sure that you can continue to do those as well. Also in the B1 district, you could only do nursing homes, but you couldn't do assisted living facilities. So we are making it clear that anywhere you can do a nursing home, you can do an assisted living facility because the uses are very similar in terms of impacts. The big major change with this proposed ordinance amendment is to the RPUD district. The RPU district is our Rural Plan Unit Development District. This is our most dense residential district. As we looked at these sort of elderly projects, we thought about where should these types of developments be located. We have very limited land in Goochland County for commercial uses. Really generally only along the a small portion of Patterson Avenue and a small portion of Broad Street. Did we want to have all of these types of uses taken up in our commercial areas? They really are residential uses. They're very dense, but they are residential uses, so we are recommending that they be added to the RPUD district. In order to allow these uses in the RPUD districts, it did require some changes to be made to the RPUD district. One dealing with density. Right now the code states in the RPUD that you're limited to 2.5 units per acre. We would be adding a provision that for residential units within a continuing care retirement community or in a senior congregate care facility, the maximum gross residential density shall not exceed 12 units per acre. And then also we wanted to provide setbacks for these new uses. And again, remember I told you as part showing you some of the pictures, these are generally tall buildings, typically 3 to 5 stories. So what we're proposing with the setbacks is that the setback would be a minimum of 25 feet or the height of the building, whichever is greater. So if the building is 45 feet high, they would need a 45-foot setback. And that would be to give, some further separation, especially for properties on the adjacent, on the boundaries. And then also don't forget with the PUD district, a perimeter buffer is 35 feet is also required around the whole development, which was another reason why we thought this could be an appropriate district for these uses. Finally, the last change is to the parking requirements. We had the term before sanitarium, convalescent home, and homes for the aged. We'll be deleting all of those and adding nursing home, an assisted living facility, or a similar institution. The parking recommendation would be 1 per 3 patient beds plus 1 per employee on a maximum shift. We did benchmark with other localities, and these are typically pretty standard throughout the region. For the new uses, the continuing care retirement community, that has both the independent living units and the assisted living facilities, nursing homes, that sort of thing. So for the independent living unit part, we would have 1 per living unit. And then for the assisted living portion, it would be 1 per 3 patient bed plus 1 per employee. In researching, these typically, these elderly CCRCs and things like that, they have, most of them move in with 1 car, and within 2 years they're giving that car up, but they do move in generally with 1 car in the development. For senior congregate care, we are recommending a parking requirement of 1 per residential living unit plus 1 per employee on the maximum shift. So it is a complex ordinance. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think it would go a long way to addressing some of the adult housing needs in the county.
I have a couple of questions, Ms. Hunter. I think we're all aware that there's a growing demand for these facilities. And not only the 2 that we've already approved here in the county, but there are going to be others. As the baby boomers are aging, and the population is growing, there'll be an ongoing demand. And I think these are good for the jurisdictions. It seems to me they are low activity level. They are typically architecturally designed. They're attractive. They are great tax revenue producers. They don't bring a lot of traffic. But they need to be in locations where family and friends can have access. So there are a couple of other zoning districts that I wondered, would they, why wouldn't, or would they be eligible for this type facility? And before I mention which ones, I don't know if you're familiar, there's a group of this type of senior living facility, and the company is called Bickford. There's one on the south side, and I can't recall the address, but it's single story, architecturally designed, and it looks just like a large residence, although it's a very large residence, but it's not multi-story. I think purposely, because people don't have to go up and down stairs or ride elevators. So there are different types of these facilities that I think will be more and more in demand. And I'm wondering then, since we have other zoning districts, and the two I would ask would be RN and R3. It would seem to me, now these particular districts, and I took a look at the zoning ordinance before it, and if I can find my notes, I'll tell you what I found. Because they do allow by use, and let me get to it now. Well, you probably know this better than I, Joe, Ms. Hunter, but they, I'm not going to find my notes. Such uses as schools, nursery schools, kindergartens, public parks and playgrounds are allowable in these districts by either right or by CUP. So would they be eligible for this type of facility?
And I did take a look at this prior to the meeting. I pulled up the R3 here. I'm looking at it. The statement of intent for the R3 district is, first statement is the district is designed for certain quiet, low-density residential uses. That's what would give me pause for the R3 because it does reference a low density. These uses typically are not low density. They're typically very high. As you can see, we were recommending a density of about 12. The R3 district does, for CUP uses, does include things like clubs, lodges, dancing schools, child care centers, nursery schools, places of worship. Because of the low density in the description, I would have a concern with the RN. I did look at the R3, excuse me. The RN does not.
May I interrupt just to say, I don't see that nursery schools, private kindergartens, child care centers, and dancing schools would seem to me would require a lot more traffic and activity than would a senior living facility. So if we allow that by CUP, and I'm just thinking in terms of what would benefit the county here.
And then at the RN, I did take a look at where we have RN uses in the county right now. There's only 2 areas of the county that are currently zoned RN. They are shown on this map with circles. This is the Hickory Haven Samory Forest subdivision, which is directly north to the Reader's Branch proposal that was heard a few months ago. That's off of Hockett Road. And then the second place where we have RN zoning is off of Patterson on these, it's called Huguenot Hills. It's previously platted lots that are very small lots that would need to be redrawn, vacated to do any sort of development in that area. So those are the 2 areas where we designate RN. It's certainly the Commission's purview to consider any additional districts that you'd want to add. It could be either done at the podium, or if you want staff to go back and take a look at it, but that's certainly within the Planning Commission's purview.
Yeah, I would just like to recommend that we would like to ask the staff to take another look. I think these are opportunities for the county as the county grows, not only in providing services, and I think RN and R3, certainly RN speaks to the allowable uses providing service to the community, and these facilities certainly provide that. So I would ask that the staff take a look at these particular districts. Anyone else, John?
One question I have, the CCRC definition, is that consistent with Henrico and Chesterfield and other areas?
You
So
know,
as not
this-
to be confused when somebody goes to look at one of those areas that they're.
This is such a new use that we have looked at other localities. The only locality that we found had a specific definition for CCRC was Powhatan, and that's because they've recently done a zoning rewrite. I know these uses are in Henrico, but they do not have a specific use for CCRC that's defined in our code. But the language is similar to Powhatan. It's not exactly, but it is similar.
Okay, this is
We are
a
on the cutting edge.
This is a public hearing item, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Well, let me open the public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor or in opposition to this zoning ordinance amendment?
Wes Atia, 422 Regina Lane. Thank you. Here with the staff. I just wanted to make sure that the zoning, the B1, R3, not the R3, but the A1, A2, the ones that you put up on the slideshow, are the only ones that you are looking at making that change. I know there's some other zonings. You've mentioned Mr. Shellhorse RN and R3. I just want to make sure that RO is not included in that proposal.
Yeah, I don't think.
Or for staff to come back and say RO.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anyone has mentioned RO.
Okay. Well, I know there were some concerns and there was some input to ask for RO to be considered, and I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't a consideration, because we know what the ramifications could be. That's really all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public comment period. Gentlemen, any further questions or discussion? So
You had some concerns with zoning.
well, we have the recommendation that I just asked Ms. Hunter to take under advisement of RN and R3. As to whether they could be eligible. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the ordinance amendment as submitted.
I second it.
Any further discussion?
Aye.
All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And if I may clarify, it's a request that staff, before it go to the board, just evaluate those additional zoning districts.
Yes, and if I could just clarify that to make sure we're on the same page, what I'm hoping to accomplish here is that we're not missing an opportunity for this growing demand of uses that provide not only services to the community, but there's a financial benefit as well. Low traffic, low intensity, and a real service to the community. So just so we're taking a look at all of the opportunities in the ordinance for this type facility, because these facilities are changing as well. Different types, different needs, et cetera. So that's the whole purpose. So,
Thank you,
yes.
sir.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've made that clear. Are we okay on that? Ms. Worley, is there any further business?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Have